Stay on the run. I'm throwing down from the sky like a lightning bolt's never been done. You should lay down your guns or face the firing squad. Paper and plastic walls surround the millions. Hear a big distant call among the innocent. Send out an SOS to all civilians. Tear off your armor, I'm free from these prisons. It's getting closer, we're in another war. It's never over, we keep at it 24. We need to wake up, what are we fighting for? Let's take it back to the places we knew before. Why don't we speak no more? We need to find a cure. We need to find why they keep at it 24. What are we fighting for? What are we fighting for? It's never over, we keep at it 24. We need a ceasefire. I speak your mother tongue. We need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire. I speak your mother tongue. We need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire. I speak your mother tongue. We need a ceasefire. We need a ceasefire. I speak your mother tongue. We need a ceasefire. A ceasefire.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere, supplying you with your daily dose of music, arts and culture. I'm Niall Gray.
And I'm Soraya Giliberti, and a big thank you to Cecil, who kicked off the show with her hit single, Ceasefire. More from her later on. So now, what have you got going on today?
On today's show, we are going to be looking at innovations in the theatre world, an outdoor play performed in the streets of London, and an artist whose work about refugees is seen all over London's billboards.
We will also feature poetry champion Ben Norris. But at first, it's news of the day. Remember when you didn't have to wear a mask in public? Me neither. We've now reached peak 2020 dystopia with an innovative series of Bluetooth-enabled face masks that look something like something out of Blade Runner. It's equipped with an interior mic, a special coating, and a headphone setup that can connect to your phone. According to the product's crowdfunding page, it'll manage 12 hours on a single charge. Do I want to be wearing it for that long? no thanks. At least while the world melts around you, you'll be able to listen to Fleetwood Mac's Dreams and be smug in your COVID-free face blankets, well, at least until we get a vaccine. David Fincher is making a new TV series that is sure to ruffle some feathers. The American director, best known for dark psychological thrillers like Seven, Fight Club, and The Social Network, is turning his attention to a new monster haunting the American imagination: cancel culture. What exactly is cancel culture? People criticizing J.K. Rowling for being transphobic in a new book? Or someone attacking you on social media for something you posted? Cancel culture has been the subject of fierce debate over the last half-decade. The American publication Vice says few people can agree on what it actually means, when plenty are rejecting that it actually even exists at all. I guess we'll find out all about it in Fincher's new series. Now, discussing the brain as a 3-pound universe may be closer to the truth than we thought. Your brain is made up of a network of nearly 100 billion neurons. Neurons in groups connected by strings lead to junctions called synapses. That's about as simple as our science consultant for the show could get it. An astrophysicist and a neuroscientist compared the similarities between the cosmic web of the universe and the network in our brains. Weirdly, they look almost exactly the same. The researchers also compared images of tree branches, clouds, and patterns in water, but none of them came close to matching the neuron and universe duo. Literally mind-blowing. I guess if we're living in a simulation, someone copy and pasted the code. And finally, if you're a fan of consuming psychedelic mushrooms, perhaps Canada is a place to be. The Canadian government is now allowing some patients to legally consume psychedelic shrooms. For those uninitiated, the active ingredient psilocybin occurs naturally in over 100 different species of fungi worldwide. So psilocybin induces temporary changes in mood by activating serotonin receptors in the brain. Worldwide research has shown psilocybin has promises in boosting mental health, fighting off depression, and helping PTSD sufferers. Who knows? At the end of this week, I might need myself some of that. Back to you, Niall.
Thank you, Sade. All right then, now with us is the 2-time UK poetry champion, Ben Norris, with some insights into the male ego. I am so excited. Here he is, performing 2 poems, A Curse on the Boys and Essential Travel.
Thanks very much, Niall. It's lovely to be here. So yes, this first poem is about men and masculinity, or more specifically about boys and masculinity. I sometimes volunteer for a wonderful charity called Great Men, who go into secondary schools and run workshops with boys exploring gender and gender equality. Gently suggest the idea that it didn't just begin and end with the suffragettes, and we might have some distance still to run, and talk about all sorts of really important things. And they're largely really inspiring days, as you can imagine, but sometimes you're met with some alarming viewpoints, some quite frustrating questions, and you realise you're sitting in a room with loads of little misogynists, and you think, no, shit, I had a bit more faith in the next generation than this. So this is a poem I wrote from that kind of place, inspired by a poem by Kim Moore called The Trumpet Teacher's Curse. This is called A Curse on the Boys. A curse on the boys who don't listen, who giggle at the mention of gender as if it's something they don't have. The boys who go limp when they see the word feminism, the only real F word around here. The boys, drawing dicks on the board for days. They lock their mums in kitchens, their wives in bedrooms, and themselves in boardrooms and on trading floors. These one-man travel corridors. It's funny how quickly buying and selling starts to look like flailing, like semaphore for help. A curse on those who don't ask for it. A curse on the private schoolers who should know better, whose parents' wealth can't buy them courtesy or even proper knowledge. Gazing at the all-girls place over the fence, asking only how not to get accused of anything. Arming themselves for the joint sixth form, the rape jokes, the alibis, and the circuitous routes. A curse on those who can spell everything but paternity, for whom leave only means one thing. A curse on those who won't let a bathroom be a bathroom, who want to own it all. May you be flaccid forever. May you never know the right time to leave the party. May you draw a cock and balls whenever you try and sign your name, write a check, give someone your number. I wish you constantly underwhelming punchlines. I'm sorry I've got an early mornings. The kids won't see you anymore. I wish you phallic hatchbacks with mismatched roof racks and a first kiss curse of fetid tic-tacs. I wish you haunting flashbacks, a parade of former partners all yawning mid-shag. Long walks with split bags. May your whole life feel like an impressive lift journey, going up and up and up and up and up, but may your stomach stay put. May you never be invited to play in Soccer-Aid. May you know just once what it's like to need to be somewhere that you're not and can't get to. May you feel just once unwelcome. May you feel just once unsafe. I wish you slow punctures on performative charity bike rides, dodgy shellfish and patchy Wi-Fi, wet lay-bys and missed bedtimes. I wish you frozen PowerPoints and difficult second albums. I wish you difficult first albums. I wish you copyright-free instrumental music. I wish you lukewarmly received TED Talks. I wish you would help me do something with this anger, the impossible maleness of this poem. I wish we knew the difference between revenge and reparations. I'm not shouting. Between the choice just to cease or to grow. I wish you freedom and peace, patience and pause, the power to say, I don't know. And for those who did go to private school, obviously I wish them radically higher taxation and the dissolution of those institutions in their entirety. Okay. Speaking of the wildly out of touch, I'm sure you all enjoyed Dominic Cummings' little trip to the northeast of England during lockdown the first as much as I did. When people, as they are still now, having to wave goodbye to loved ones through hospital windows, when your partner might live 250 meters away, never mind 250 miles, and you still can't see them. So this is a poem I wrote about his little jaunt. It's called Essential Travel, and it's the poem I'm going to leave you with. So thanks very much for having me. It's been lovely to be here, lovely to perform for you. This is Essential Travel. If poetry is the transportive art, let it take me to Durham, where I have never been. Let it take me to Coventry. I'm told I have cousins nearby, and that Warwick Castle is nice. It's always a glorious day somewhere. If poetry is the transportive art, all I ask is 3 streets, over the turnpike and into the arms of my beloved. Let me kiss skin wounded by all this lack. People are dying without witness, and there is only so long we can believe ourselves loved alone. Let us ask, what is essential travel? Let us ask when we'll be home. Cheers.
Ben, great stuff. You can find out more about him as well at bennorris.net.
We're going to be taking a short break soon.
Yeah, but stay with us because coming up, we're going to be speaking to TV guru Graham Smith about the role of television and its commitment to the arts.
We're also looking at the life of an art activist. We'll see you shortly.
Doris has always had her fantasies.
Albert, grasp me. I'm flying, Jack.
I thought we were on a boat. Some involving food. But in the end, nothing compares to the real thing.
Iceberg ahoy!
Welcome back. We're here for an exclusive interview with Graham Smith, former commissioning editor with Channel 4, Channel 5, and executive producer with the BBC. It is a pleasure to have you in studio with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for coming in. Now, as a former commissioner, executive producer, you are better informed about the UK television landscape than anyone else out there.
Literally anyone.
Please tell us a little bit more about the different channels and their current commitments to promote arts and culture on TV.
Well, it's pretty sketchy. The BBC has always sort of led the way. You know, Channel 4 has done reasonably well, but the coverage of the arts is pretty poor at the moment. ITV rarely does any arts coverage. BBC One, you might occasionally see Alan Yentob interviewing Rod Stewart. BBC Two, BBC Four, the places, and they still do arts coverage, but nowhere near as much as you would want. You know, Sky Arts is possibly the one interesting place at the moment.
Right, okay.
And of course, you worked on the BBC Two Late Show a few years ago. How was that show more like connected with the arts and culture than maybe shows are today?
I mean, I was extremely lucky to work on The Late Show, because The Late Show was a real landmark art series. It was live 4 nights a week, ran for many years from the late 80s throughout the early 90s, and there's never really been anything like it. And you could dip into The Late Show and you didn't know what you were going to see, whether it was Art Blakey, the jazz drummer in the studio, or an interview with extraordinary artists or authors, etc. It was a great place to work, and we sort of took it for granted at the time. The arts programmes were always going to be like this, but I'm afraid they're not anymore. Sure.
So do you feel like TV shows now are sort of dismissing their sort of responsibility to sort of get that across now, the arts?
Yeah, there just isn't the right amount of coverage. Really, as I say, BBC Two and BBC Four, the responsibility has fallen to them, and BBC Four is good, but it just shows a lot of retrospectives, historical pieces. Channel 4 could do... Channel 4 is doing the odd good thing, but I wish it did so much more.
I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think that lockdown has had a massive impact on the arts?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of the actual live arts, performing arts, music, theatre, etc., you know, anyone involved in the arts knows, anyone who loves the arts, who loves to go to galleries and museums and the theatre and the cinema, it's like we all feel starved of it. And TV hasn't really stepped up to the plate to replace that experience, I think.
Yeah.
So have there maybe been any TV shows in lockdown that have like really excelled because of lockdown itself?
I think the only really interesting arts lockdown show is the Grace and Perry show on Channel 5, because it was sort of the right show at the right time. Grace and Perry, obviously, really fantastic contemporary artist, already has a bit of a TV presence. He's done some work on TV, and his show was a pure lockdown show. It was in his studio, guests on Zoom, etc. So, but that's sort of the exception, really, I think.
Now, you mentioned Sky Arts earlier on, and you know they're really showing a very positive example of broadcasters' commitments to the arts. The naked installation of Spencer Tunick, which supported by Sky Arts, marked the day that the channel became free to everybody. This was a unique cultural moment in the UK. What is your opinion on Sky's progression regarding the promotion of arts and culture?
Okay, I'm a big fan of Sky Arts, big fan. Always have been, you know, and it's been buried in pay TV for a long time. So, and an awful lot of people don't have pay TV. So the fact that Sky have now moved Sky Arts to Freeview is a massive step, because it means that it can multiply its audience by 1,000% probably. And the fact that it's matched that move into free with a commitment to commission a whole raft of new programming. It's the only UK network that's really doing interesting things, I think, at the moment.
It's quite exciting, actually.
It really is.
So I guess that's the main difference then. That's what Sky Arts is doing compared to any other channel, really, about the arts at all.
It's making a proper commitment to the arts. It's making, you know, I think there's a magazine show, it runs at 11 o'clock at night. The thing about Sky Arts, what it's interested in is new work and artists doing new things and doing unusual things. I think
Breaking molds.
I think the other night Irving Walsh was talking about this whole issue of offence, you know, people taking offence. And so I think what they're interested in doing in Sky Arts is new stuff, rather than a retrospective on Basquiat or a retrospective on Keith Haring, which are great, but they are arts retrospectives rather than doing original stuff.
It's been done as well. It's been done. Let's do something new and exciting. We spoke to you about the significance of TV art moments that have happened over the years. And I think the most prominent one that has stuck out has been the 2012 opening transmission of the Olympics. Let's take a look at that.
British engineer Eisenbar King de Brunel, portrayed by Kenneth Branagh.
I mean, what an epic moment. I even remember that. And I know that Danny Boyle had some massive involvement in that. It was the narration and also the choreography. Can you tell us a little bit more about that moment? It's
interesting about the Olympics in 2012, because people don't really think of that amazing opening ceremony as being an artistic experience.
It really was.
But it was an absolute celebration of, it was a celebration of the arts, and it was about performance arts happening live. The fact that it was music and amazing actors and amazing dancers and amazing stunt performers, etc. It was a sort of amazing mixture of every sort of artistic endeavour, and it was a celebration, obviously, of British culture, but a celebration of the arts, and we don't do that enough. We don't celebrate the arts. And obviously there's a governmental issue here, there's a political issue here, but the arts is so important to the lifeblood of us as people.
100%. It's been going on for decades, eons, millennia.
Sure. So sort of like on that point, how come sort of like the arts in TV, how comes those figures are so low then?
You know, the arts are always considered by TV to be a niche interest. Right. A niche interest, despite the fact that Tate Modern is one of the most visited galleries in the world. The fact that we read every day in the papers about paintings being sold for millions. Everyone has heard of Banksy. Everyone has heard of Damien Hirst. These are cultural icons. And just because they don't get the same audience as Strictly or Gogglebox doesn't mean that they're not an absolutely important, valid part of our cultural nourishment, if you will. Just going to get a little bit pretentious there.
Love that. We've got to keep it like that. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks so much for your time.
It was so amazing speaking to you. Thank you so much for being here. Following on from the interview with Graham, our location reporter Mo Omar visited social artist Luke Waring in his studio in London. Let's have a look at some of the political purpose Luke uses his art for.
Hello, we're in sunny North London to meet Luke Waring, a social artist, and his art dealer, Mikasa, and find a bit more about his work and how recent world events have impacted it. Let's follow me.
It's important for someone who has a voice to be able to speak for those who don't. So a lot of my work does cover subjects like the refugee crisis, the Yemen crisis, this piece over here. Yeah. Cool. So you could say I'm a social artist.
So I'm Luke's art dealer and also partner and also friend, brother.
No, meeting Mikasa has been amazing. He really has understood where my work is going and what it's about.
Luke's visual language and art speaks the language of the common man. You know, a lot of his work, it's community-led and very left of center, so to speak. it's not trying to fit in, it's trying to break a particular mold.
So how did the refugee crisis come into your work?
I guess comes from my heritage. Like, my family were kind of Ukrainian Jewish, just before the First World War, and they were being kind of persecuted, and they actually walked all the way to the UK. Wow. And so I think, even though I didn't know so much about my history, I think it's always been there, and I've always really cared about telling these stories. And you know, if I see something I don't think is fair or I don't think is right, I'm like, I have to do something. I have to say something.
You said to me earlier that so much of your work is about crossing the ocean, vast spaces. Why is that?
I did a sailing trip kind of randomly. Started in the Caribbean and sailed to Portugal. I can't say that I have any idea what it would be like to cross the Mediterranean on a bloody rubber dinghy. But definitely having lived on the ocean, when I started hearing about people crossing over the Mediterranean initially, it definitely caught my eye and became a big subject for my work.
In Luke's current work, how it's more focused on the notions of the sea and the water, and migrants, and also crises around the world which have either been which are either evident or not necessarily central on the news, so to speak. Yeah.
I recently did a billboard in Shoreditch, which was inspired by the refugees crossing over the channel, which was really interesting. And again, the figure, the boat, both came in. At the end of the day, people are coming here because they have hope that it will be a better life. And they respect the UK because of the way life is here, in the sense of freedom of speech and safety from the police, comparatively to the rest of the world. So that was the main message that I wanted to bring in that piece. I really enjoy making work on the street. I think in terms of accessibility, people don't have to go to a museum. It's right there for them to see, and it cannot be censored. It's whatever you put will be seen by the public, and I think there's something very special about that. And so anytime I'm asked to do a work that's on the street, I kind of take it a lot more seriously than almost my studio paintings, because I know it's going to be seen by someone. So I really think about what would be important to put up, what questions should be asked, what subjects, what themes are relevant to not just the people in London, but around the world.
Wow, very impressive work.
Indeed. Right, we are now going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to review a very special form of theatre and some more music as well. See you in a bit.
It's the 21st century. We're in that famous office. The big boss is signing off on horrible promises.
I believe this is the land of the free, except if you associate with LGBT. Mention of their rights, let's remove them from our website. Let's see, we could also cut the funding to HIV.
What is this rubbish?
Was a query by the king of planet Legability.
Why has he done this? Everyone has hearts that we should all be loved with. What can I do?
You can go and dance the bad out of him. Dance for the human race. Go and really pout for him. So with this deeply meaningful movement, they got the change they demanded to see, an improvement. But it's still a daily battle that you can battle too. With your donations or even with your dancing boots, they will bring the dance floor to the streets. They will dance for peace, dance for equality. They will give you an outlet to feel, empowered to heal, to own your space and bodies for real, making justice cease, and they will always work for peace.
Hello and welcome back to It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Now with us is Natasha Sutton-Williams. She's an award-winning writer, composer, actor and journalist. Her plays have been produced at multiple London venues and today she's here to review the remarkable outdoor theatre experience called Contact. Take a look at this.
I think it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Found it very emotional. I actually cried.
It was like nothing I've ever seen before. It was amazing.
Yeah, I loved it.
Bizarre and great and
unique. I thought it was a really interesting concept.
I think it touches on a lot of themes that are kind of relevant to now.
It's like a complete emotional journey.
But at the same time, you're embedded in this environment.
And being outside is just really special.
Especially during this pandemic when we have to be outside.
The 3D sound.
You get the sound from one ear to the other ear.
Made you feel so kind of immersed.
Yeah, like right inside it. I've not been to theatre for a long, long time, but this is still unlike anything I've ever done before theatrically.
All I can say is I would definitely book if I were you.
I would really recommend everyone to come and see it.
100% recommend it.
It was great.
I've never seen anything like it before.
It's fantastic.
Support theatre, great acting. What else do you need?
Now I'm very excited to talk about this. Natasha, welcome to It's 5 o'clock somewhere. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes to being here. That's great. Tell us about Contact. Can you explain to us how it works?
Yeah, so basically, when you buy your ticket, you are able to download an app onto your phone, and then you use your own headphones in your phone. You go to a predestined location, and you basically experience a soundscape, voices, music, even the digestive systems of the actors.
Wow.
And you go through this story of a woman called Sarah who is walking through a city, in this case, London.
Yeah.
And she meets a man who can hear her thoughts.
Wow.
Now, the piece is all audio, and you can hear her train of consciousness, basically.
Okay.
And that's how we find out, oh my gosh, this guy can actually hear her thoughts. How can he hear her thoughts? And you go through this kind of emotional journey of her worries, her anxieties, her grief. She loses her father. And then this man appears and basically helps her through, almost like a therapeutic, cathartic session with her. So it's kind of amazing. And the actors that you're watching, you never see them speak throughout the whole piece.
Wow. Talk about immersive. Do you know what I mean? The fact that you're getting in there. There's this. How did Contact come about?
So it was in response to COVID, and a man called Samuel Sene and Gabrielle Jourdan in Paris wanted to come up with an idea responding to the crisis, and how can we create theater, and how can we create something that's exciting, interesting, and new. And they knew that their brief was they couldn't have actors speaking or singing because of the viral load.
Of course.
They had to do it outside, and they had to do it with social distancing. So they came up with this really interesting idea about, okay, let's listen to the consciousness of somebody's mind, and what happens when someone else can hear those thoughts as well.
Wow. That is incredible. Do you see a future for like outdoor theatre like this?
Absolutely, because looking back to Greek amphitheatre, Roman amphitheatre, you've got medieval drama and the mystery plays. You've got the creation of Elizabethan playhouses because originally, I believe it was in 1572, they actually stopped plays from occurring in London because they were fearful that people were going to catch the plague.
Right, of course.
So later on, these actors were like, okay, how do we get around this situation? So they actually created a theatre called The Theatre, which was the first theatre that was ever created purely for theatrical productions and purposes. And that was outside of the jurisdiction of London, which was in Shoreditch at the time, which was called the suburb of sins.
It still is.
So you've also got, you've got all these different historical periods that are engaging in outdoor theatre. And so this is just the process of thinking, what can we do now?
Yeah.
And that's what they were thinking then. And also this idea of innovation and technology.
Of course.
You're telling me that if Shakespeare wasn't here today, he wouldn't be using all the technology.
Oh, he'd be on it. He'd so be on it. And it's amazing how we've forgotten that it started outside anyway. So now it's like, ooh, theatre outside. Do you think there are any kind of performances that won't work in this setting?
I think kitchen sink dramas, that might be slightly difficult to do, but I genuinely do think that if you can be, as artists, as creative and as adaptive as possible, I think you can do things, and you can, if you slightly change your parameters, then I think basically anything is possible.
So we obviously know that things are a little bit difficult at the moment because of the current situation. How do you think theatre is actually doing right now?
Well, I think that kind of traditional theatre is in hibernation.
Yeah.
I think that theatre makers in particular, and all of those kind of artists around theatre, are still creating things and still having ideas. And I remember listening to one playwright, and he was like, I am carrying on writing my play, and that is a political gesture.
Yeah.
I think that we need to have government subsidy, we need to have government funding, we need to have audiences support theatre, because again, it's like pantos are so important. Musicals are so important. This is what people go to see. This is a staple in family lives, and we need to support this stuff.
And it's also an escape for us as well. Do you know what I mean? Just a moment to go watch somebody else entertain us that's not on telly. Natasha, thank you so very much for being here with us today. Absolutely fantastic. Make sure you get yourself tickets for the next Contact show in January. Now I'm handing it over to you, buddy.
Thank you very much. Now, we decided to run a little bit of an experiment. Can the average NFTS student tell the difference between a famous work of art compared to something done by some very enthusiastic kids? We decided to test out this theory earlier on. Let's see how they got on.
So, welcome to the NFTS Art Gallery. So today we will be inviting students to look at our array of paintings, mostly done by children, but there is one hidden amongst them that is done by a professional worth millions.
No, I am very uneducated. This one, crayon-y. This one looks like it was made on paint. It's fair to say I don't really like any of them.
I think they're all pretty good. Some interesting green here. One is interesting as well. A little bit like stone, earthy stones.
What do you like about this one, darling?
I'm not quite sure I like it, to be honest.
This just screams menstruation. I mean, lots of blood, lots of gore.
Anyway, moving on.
Very jagged motions, sometimes circular, sometimes jagged. Well, this is obviously a Warhol, quite obviously. I mean, there's your answer, there's no more questions there.
What are we thinking?
I'm thinking Gerard Richter. I mean, great if my 2-year-old nephew had done that, I'd be like, oh, well done. Well done. Yeah, I'm not going to put that on the fridge.
Right, well I do have the correct answer here, so I can reveal the art piece worth millions was in fact this one here.
Really? Something inside me tells me it's this one.
You are correct. Oh. Yes, this is here. This is from an artist called, I forgot the name. Cy Twombly, darling, and it's actually valued around £8 million.
You know what? I should have gone for this one because this one looks the least appealing.
The menstruation piece really screams to me It reminds me of my mother.
The actual professional artwork. What's this?
It's not that, it's that one.
I'm loving your controversy, but you are in fact wrong. Thank you so much for coming to our art gallery.
Whatever, mate.
I was surprised. It looks crap, but apparently that's art.
So maybe there's hope for you yet, Niall?
Thank God for that. 8 million quid.
8 million.
All right, well, unfortunately, we are coming to the end of today's episode of It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere.
A big thank you to all of our guests.
Yeah, and make sure that you tune in the same time tomorrow for the very last episode in the series. And don't forget, it is in fact always 5 o'clock somewhere.
Give it up one last time for Cecil with Black Mariah.
As he left, I felt handcuffed on my breath. Thrown upon it, cop on it. Honey, it's too late. They took me down in my midnight summer gown. Running wild in this old town. We dream of sanity. When the sirens go. When the sirens go. When the sirens go. When the sirens go. In a black Mariah, yeah, I'm smoking up a line. In a black Mariah, yeah, you looking for a ride. In a black Mariah, yeah, I'm smoking up a line. In a black Mariah, yeah, you looking for a ride. Going fast, hitting 90 through the black of the moonlight's glowing mask, and the glitter turns to dust. I blew a kiss as the smoke rose to my lips. Wolves howling for the kicks, and they never did return. When the sirens go. When the sirens go. When the sirens go. When the sirens go. In a black Mariah, yeah, I'm smoking up a line. In a black Mariah, yeah, you looking for a ride. In a black Mariah, yeah, I'm smoking up a line. In a black Mariah, yeah, you looking for a ride. As he left, I felt handcuffed by my breath. Run upon it, cop on it, honey, it's too late. You took me down in my midnight summer gown, running wild in this old town. You dream of sanity. When the sirens go, sirens go, sirens go, sirens go, sirens go. When the sirens go, when the sirens go, when the sirens go. When the sirens go. In a black Mariah, yeah, I'm smoking up a line. In a black Mariah, yeah, you looking for a ride. In a black Mariah, yeah, I'm smoking up a line. In a black Mariah, yeah, you looking for a ride. In a black Mariah, yeah, I'm smoking up a line. In a black Mariah, yeah, you looking for a ride.
Oh, hello, my friend. I did not see you there. But you say they're frank. If roses are red, why are violets blue? A simple question, but one that has baffled the minds of many and for me for a long time. The advice I have is simple. Red is the color of passion and of love. In a bouquet of blue, sad violets, be a red rose. Be passionate, be full of love. That is it, my friend. Goodbye.